Hey everybody, this is KennedyHawk. We're going to do another Marvel Champions pack review. Today we're going to be talking about the Quicksilver Hero Pack, which releases this Friday, tomorrow. I got mine a little bit early through USPS, and then I imported one way long ago back in December. So I've been jamming around as Pietro for quite a bit now, and he is super fun. So I would say that this is a pass or pick it up video, but I'm going to tell you right now, this is a pack you are not going to want to miss, even though it comes with a bunch of green cards. So let's get started by looking at Pietro's hero kit and his identity card. Pietro Maximoff has 3 recover, a hand size of 6, and 9 hit points. His ability, Superheroed Siblings, has an action: discard 2 cards from hand, draw 2 cards, 3 cards instead if Wanda Maximoff is in play. So that's really interesting because his signature ally is Scarlet Witch Wanda Maximoff. If you're playing 2-player, eventually when the Scarlet Witch pack comes out, you're going to both need to be in alter ego form to get the best use out of this ability. But it is still a pretty powerful ability to cycle through your deck and find the cards you care about the most. On Quicksilver's other side, he has a hero, hand size of 5, hit points 9, 1 thwart, 1 attack, 1 defense. Super speed response: after you use one of Quicksilver's basic powers, thwart, attack, or defense, ready him. Limit once per phase. I think what this means is after you do a basic or perform a basic ability, if there's ever a card that's like deal damage equal to your attack, I don't think that would let him ready himself. But this is going to allow you to thwart and attack in the same turn, or double attack or double thwart. And it's going to allow you to defend and then ready yourself and be ready for the next hero phase, or defend for multiple players. This does have some weaknesses with it as well. It's a really cool ability, but if you're confused and you really need to double thwart, that confusion is a replacement effect, so you're not going to be able to use his super speed ability when you do a basic thwart to clear confusion. So you're really going to count on events to be able to clear that. Fortunately, Quicksilver comes with a ton of events, but none of them can clear stunned or confusion. You do have ones that can ready your character, so you'll find ways to use that super speed ability regardless of status conditions, but a little bit of a weakness there. Your best strategy is, if you get confused, is to attack, ready, and then thwart to clear the confusion, so you can still clear a status condition, but you can't do that as like the first thing in your chain. Anyway, with those weak stats, we better hope he has things that is going to buff him up, and we'll find out later here that he does. First up, his ally. Scarlet Witch is a 3-cost signature ally with a wild resource, 3 health, the Avengers trait, 1 thwart, and 1 attack. Interrupt: when you use one of Scarlet Witch's basic powers, discard the top card of the encounter deck. For each boost icon discarded this way, Scarlet Witch gets +1 for the power of this use. So this could give you nothing and just burn a card from the encounter deck. It could give you +3. That's pretty cool. Really cool to team up with Jessica Drew, because she can check out the top card of the encounter deck and let you know how many boost icons are there. So that'll be pretty neat. And overall, pretty efficient ally. I mean, I think on average you're going to hit 1 to 2 pips. I think on average you're mostly going to hit 1 extra icon. So 3 cost for 6 thwart isn't too bad. It's not like amazing as a signature ally, but it has a huge ceiling. If you flip all 3 boost icon cards, that's 3 cost for 12 thwart. That is a pretty good deal. So pretty cool signature ally, and obviously you're going to probably want to keep her in play to trigger Pietro's superpowered siblings ability as much as possible. He has the civilian trait. I find that very funny. Like, they had to find something to put here, so they went with that. Really reaching to not say mutant or mutate, depending on which continuity you currently believe or live in. Alright, moving on to the events from Pietro's kit. He has a ton of events. You're going to notice here he's got 9 events in his kit. So if you're thinking about deck fitting with Pietro, that's actually going to be quite difficult, because you're going to have almost a quarter of your deck right off the bat that are events. So if you're including any events from aspects and basic cards, you're getting up into the 25% or higher region for events in your deck. So we have 4 copies of Always Be Running. Hero action: ready Quicksilver. I'm the fastest man on Earth. Pretty reasonable. It does cost a resource to play this card, so you're really paying 2 resources to ready. If your stats are 1/1/1, paying 2 resources to do 1 thwart is probably not very good. So you're going to want to include ways to increase Pietro's stats if you're planning to use this Always Be Running. Also note, since it's an action, you can use this to ready after you've defended twice using super speed, but you're not going to get a 3rd defense use out of this. So still powerful in protection, because it allows you to defend and then still use your thwart or attack skills. but maybe not powerful for like synergizing and comboing within multi-defense sort of mechanisms. All right, superpower traded, just to note. We've got 2 copies of Double Time, hero action. Choose 2 of the following. You may choose the same option twice. Deal 2 damage to an enemy, or remove 2 threat from a scheme. So this is pretty cool. It could be a 4 justice, 2 cost for 4 threat removal. It could be a super upgraded Haymaker, 2 cost for 4 damage, or it could be both. And the best news is it gets around stunned and confused, because this is not an attack or a thwart action, it is a superpower. So really cool. Love the art. One of my favorite cards in his kit, just because it's so versatile. It comes up and you always get a cool decision to make, even if you only get 1 card to play for that round. Next, Maximum Velocity. This is a essential card from Quicksilver's kit. It's a 2-cost event. You get +2 thwart, +2 attack, +2 defense until the end of the round. So that's going to allow you to thwart for 6 using super speed, and then defend for 6 in the round you play this. That's really awesome, and that's without using any of his always be runnings. You're going to actually want to thin your deck quite a bit so that you can have this card come up as much as possible. So you are going to want to include a lot of upgrades, supports, and allies from your aspect and basic cards, because this card is just essential to getting Quicksilver to where he needs to be to just be a powerhouse. If you can play this and some of the other shenanigans that increase your stats, you can design a really cool like 1-turn kill, or like do all the damage in 1 turn deck with Quicksilver that has been super rewarding to try to figure out and fun to play. Finally, we have 1 copy of Speed Cyclone. Hero action, stun X enemies and you spend X resources. So pay 3 to stun 3 enemies, really good. Especially good in multiplayer. Also really good in solo, right? Because it can help you stun the villain and there's not going to be multiple activations. But in solo or in multiplayer, you can just neuter all the horrible minions that have come out and let people focus on the boss for a round, or focus on clearing those minions but not with essential speed. Ultimately, really good card. 1 of, so you're not going to see it all the time or super consistently, but that's probably good because it's a really strong, efficient use of stun. So no, 9 events, no attacks, no thwarts, all superpowers. Pretty cool. All right. These cards are out of order here. You might notice that there's 11, 12, 13. They've numbered them kind of strangely, but number 13 is an upgrade, Friction Resistance. This is another card you were going to want to mulligan for as Quicksilver. It is a condition and a superpower. Hero response: after you ready Quicksilver, ready this card. Well, that's obviously very good, because you're going to ready him at least twice a round. Also, it's a resource. Exhaust Friction Resistance to generate a physical resource. So this is how you're going to pay for all those things. You don't have 2 Super Soldier Serums, you don't have 2 God of Thunders, but you do have Friction Resistance, and there's no cap on how many times you can ready Quicksilver or ready this card. So if you have a ton of Earth's Mightiest Heroes with a bunch of Avengers allies out, you can get a ton of use out of Friction Resistance. You're only going to be able to use it once per card you play. You can't like ready mid-card cost, but still pretty neat. Definitely an essential card in his kit, and you'll notice his kit is actually pretty cheap. There's a lot of 1-cost cards, and there's no 0-cost cards, but 3 is the maximum cost of cards in his kit, and only 2 of the cards cost 3. Next, Serval Industries. It is a location with the X Factor trait, so we are finally into the X universe here. Alter Ego action: exhaust Serval Industries to shuffle 2 Quicksilver cards from your discard pile into your deck. So this is really good, because towards the end of your deck pass, you can shuffle in at maximum velocity, and you can shuffle in and always be running, and set up one of those amazing combo turns where you get 9 thwart or 9 attack just with 2 of your signature cards. The last 3 cards are also very important, so these are the cards you're going to want to get out. Quicksilver plays a little bit like Black Panther, actually, but also a little bit different. You want to sort of get all these little passive stat boosts out. So we have 2 costs for +1 defense. It's basically a bad Armored Vest, but you can play it in combination with Armored Vest and get Quicksilver up to 3 defense if you're playing in the protection trait, which is what he comes packaged with. Hyper Perception, +1 thwart. Again, this is basically the same as Heroic Intuition, but you can play both and get up to 3 thwart. Or Reinforced Sinew. Again, just like a combat training, you can get up to 3 attacks. So you're going to want to get these out so that you're using the most out of your ready and stats all the time. So I say he's kind of similar to Black Panther because there's all these upgrades that you're going to want to get out because they're super important to the way your kit works. And then you have a ton of one-cost cards that really define how your kit works, that you're going to want to cycle and thin your deck so that you see them as often as possible. So that's his signature kit. I've had a ton of fun with Quicksilver in all 4 aspects. In aggression, you can really focus on damaging things or damaging minions because of that ready ability. Once you've pumped Quicksilver stats, you're going to be able to clear a minion and hit the villain. So you're not just focusing on one thing or the other. So all those when a minion is defeated cards become very useful in Quicksilver, along with all of the stat buffs that come in aggression. Similar for Justice, you're going to be able to thwart and then still punch, so you might want to bring some ways to boost your attack or have a play partner do so. And Protection, obviously, he comes suited with, because just really good combination of being able to do that double defense during the villain phase. And even Leadership. I think we talked about a Moxie deck with Wasp recently and with Ant-Man. Moxie has become like an MVP card for Leadership, right? You can imagine being in Pietro form, discarding 2 cards and drawing into 2 to 3 Moxies. Then you flip and you pump your stats to 4. Bingo bango. All of those last until the end of the round. So they are going to affect his hero action activations and his villain phase activations, just like Maximum Velocity. So if you put this out there, like I said earlier, you could thwart for 6 and then defend for 6 over 2 defenses. Really, really strong. So let's go and look at the cards that come in his set. So there's 5 reprint cards in this pack. There are 2 copies of Armored Vest, womp womp, and there are the 3 basic resources. So not too bad on reprints if we're being quite honest. And there are a ton of really good cards, even green cards, that make me pretty happy, whether they're green in the protection aspect or green with Hulks on them. So we've got our first non-unique ally, Multiple Man, cost 4 for 1 thwart, 1 attack, and 2 health. Wow, those are some crappy stats. Wonder what else is going on here. So he has a response. After Multiple Man enters play, search your deck and hand for a copy of Multiple Man and put it into play. Shuffle your deck if it was searched this way. This is an enters play ability, so when you play that second copy of Multiple Man, you're going to be able to go search out a third one. The only place you can't pull Multiple Man out of is being face down as like an Ultron drone or being in your discard pile. So you're going to want to play that Multiple Man the first time you see him, pop all 3 of them out there. All of a sudden you've got 3 chump blockers and you don't have to defend for a very long time, which is really cool. Warlock, again with the X Factor trait. 3 cost, 1/1 stats with 3 health. I don't know what is going on with these protection allies that just can't get above this 1/1 stat line. Warlock's still pretty cool. He serves the same function or a similar function to Clea in my mind. So with Clea, I like to spend her using a thwart activation, soak attack with her, shuffle her into my deck. With Warlock, instead, he's just like acting as that passive thwarter, and you can spend a mental resource to heal up to 2 damage from him, so you can keep him around forever and just pay 1 every other turn to do just this slow drip thwart. You can do slow drip attack too, but I found the thwart is more useful for him. Pretty expensive allies, so kind of surprising that there's no power of protection card in here. We do have 1 copy of Never Back Down. It's a hero interrupt. When you defend against an attack, you get +2. If you took no damage, stun the attacking enemy. So that's really cool because it can become sort of like a double defense, right? You defend, if you take no damage, you stun the enemy. Maybe you've got Unflappable or Desperate Defense, so you also ready, and you're ready to go for the next turn. Really powerful card, really cool art. Next, Sidestep. It is a 1-cost event, a defense event, hero interrupt defense. When you would take any amount of damage, prevent 3 of that damage. If you paid for this card using a energy resource, deal 1 damage to an enemy. Again, and this has been like a common theme in this cycle, we're seeing lots of cards that require an energy or a resource type that don't match the resource on the card, which is totally okay, but it makes it a lot harder to focus on one resource type within your deck. It is nice that it has the mental trait, because Wasp and people like that are going to be able to shuffle it back into their deck. But you're now sort of forcing yourself to focus on not just mental, but also energy, so it's a little bit harder to be consistent with it. I think ultimately it's still a pretty good card. It's preventing 3 damage is really good. You don't have to be defending to play this, you can just be the target of the attack. So this can be really good against characters like Rhino that might attack you while they're tough. You can clear toughness and prevent 3 of the damage, all without exhausting. Seems really good. Can be a really good thing to have in your pocket when you're going up against Claw. He's got that card that if he damages you, you get stunned, or if he damages you, you get exhausted. Well, if you think you're going to survive it and he happens to flip really good boost cards, this can save your day. Alright, Nerves of Steel. This is like the martial prowess for defense events. So you exhaust Nerves of Steel to generate a lightning resource or an energy resource for defense events. That's great for these two defense events because it makes them free. It's really good for things like Preemptive Strike and stuff like that. So pretty good card. Max 1 per player. Obviously you can take multiple ones in multiplayer. Not everyone runs defense events in their deck, but almost everyone runs attack events. So I think that Martial Prowess is still a little bit better than Nerves of Steel, but still a pretty good card. So finally, Order and Chaos. This is the team-up card from Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. So, team up Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, max 1 per deck. Hero Interrupt. When a Treachery card is revealed from the encounter a deck, cancel its when revealed effects, then deal 2 damage to the villain. What's really cool here is it's not only when you reveal a card. I'm thinking of Black Widow's Grappling Hook only cancels things when she reveals a card. You can use this to save other people too. So pretty cool in multiplayer. Obviously, especially if you're running Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. It is not an attack as well, so just more damage that you can get through without attacking. Alright. 6 more cards to look at. We have Adrenaline Rush, and I love these first 2 basic cards. Adrenaline Rush is a 1-cost upgrade. You can discard it as a hero action to give your hero +1 attack until the end of the phase. So this is great with heroes that ready, like Iron Man, Doctor Strange, obviously Captain America, and obviously Quicksilver. So you could get up to 3 of these out. You could discard all 3 of them to give yourself +3 attack. Then maybe you play a maximum velocity that turn as well, and now you're up to +5 attack. So Quicksilver's dealing 6 damage per attack. Play a couple Always Be Runnings. Rhino's dead. GG. Really cool card. Like it in Ant-Man as well, with all the readying shenanigans he has. So it can be really, really fun. Next is Civic Duty. Same thing but for Thwart. And this is amazing. Usually anytime you have a remove 2 threat or deal 2 damage, the threat is always valued more. Not in this case. So we're only paying 1 to get +1 Thwart until the end of the phase. Again, anyone that can ready is going to love, 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 love this card. So big fan of these 2 basic upgrades. I like that you can have more than one in play, so you can sort of set up your combo. They can be really good in She-Hulk as well. You can imagine with all those 1-2 punches. You wait until you get all 3 adrenaline rushes out, and then she just gangs up on the villain. Alright, this last basic card is a little bit more situational. I don't see it as super great. Beat 'em up. 2-cost event, tactic, hero action, deal 1 damage to the villain and each minion engaged with you. This is only going to hit your minions, so it's not like She-Hulk's Ground Stomp. But it can still be pretty good for killing a bunch of Ultron drones. The best use I've had for this card so far is to combine this card with Wasp, her tiny form. It's been really hard to build around Wasp's tiny form because there's not a ton of AoE damage you can include from basic and aspect cards. But this lets Wasp set up a bunch of minions to die. She plays Beat 'em Up, it kills all the minions and pings the villain for how many ever minions she killed. So it can be pretty fun in a Wasp deck. I've seen some people mention that they want to use Embiggen with this, with Ms. Marvel. That does not work. So this is not an attack event. You're not going to be able to combine that with Ms. Marvel's Embiggen or Shrink or anything like that. Finally, we've got our off-aspect cards. We've got a card for leadership. It's a card, 0-cost event. Play only if your identity has the Avengers trait. So definitely belongs in the Avengers cycle. Hero action. Heal 1 damage for up to X friendly characters to a maximum of 3, where X is the villain's stage number. So, not super great in Standard. A 0-cost card that heals 1, you may as well just bring Honorary Avenger and plop it down on a character. Slightly better in Expert. I mean, heal 1 from 2 different characters can be really good, especially if you're playing one of those leadership decks where you want to keep your characters around for a long time, but maybe you have to use them to thwart in a pinch. Obviously, healing 3 for 0 across 3 characters is very good, but you're still only healing each character 1. If you have a hero with some passive healing, like 2 of the ones shown in the art here, Captain Marvel and Black Panther, it can be a little bit more useful with them because it lets you sustain hero form a little bit, right? If Carol plays this and then she does her hero ability, she's now healed 2 damage that turn. It's not quite as good as a recover, but for not having to flip down, we'll call it pretty good. So, good if you have a little bit of inherent healing, but not amazing. Next, Sense of Justice. Play at any player's control. So this is honestly just the Nerves of Steel or Martial Prowess for thwarting events. I do think most characters run a thwart event. Almost every character has one in their hero kit, or maybe every character does. I can't remember, honestly. This is much better than Nerves of Steel. A lot of the hero events that are defense events, like Shield Block and Wiggle Room, they already don't cost things for Nerves of Steel. So there's not a huge need for Nerves of Steel, but Sense of Justice, definitely essential, especially if you're playing in multiplayer and you want to make it so other people play their thwart events so you can have some fun doing attack events. We know Yellow needs it. Alright, finally, 1 cost upgrade, Brute Force. Your hero gets +1 attack, your basic attacks gain piercing. After you make a basic attack, discard Brute Force. So, pretty cool card. Not amazing. It's a card you can definitely include if you're gonna see tough. Like if you're going against Rhino or Claw or Kang, this could be really useful. You could also use this against or with heroes that deal damage equal to their attack value. So I'm thinking of Hulk has a card, I think, where he deals damage equal to whatever his attack is. You wouldn't discard this using that as Hulk. Now the problem is, what are you going to do with Hulk? I guess you just sit there and defend round after round because you don't have a thwart value, but an interesting way to use the card. Ultimately, it really only has value if you're going to get rid of that tough token and punch through with a lot of damage. Most characters aren't going to find a great use for Brute Force, but that kind of makes sense. I don't think Miss Marvel has Brute Force, so it shouldn't be a card that synergizes with her well. Kind of thematic. So there you have it. These are all the cards that are in the Quicksilver pack. I am not going to go over the Obligation and Nemesis. That is going to be for you to discover when you're playing your game, or tune into our friends over at the Critical Encounters podcast to focus on villains, Nemesis sets, and all sorts of nasty things like that. So ultimately, Quicksilver, great hero kit, works with all 4 aspects. Definitely some cards that help me, actually think that maybe green cards aren't completely gross. And some off aspect and basic essential cards. I think Adrenaline, Rush, and Civic Duty are going to be cards we're going to see for a long time in these buff the hero stats, ready the hero multiple times per turn sort of decks. So Quicksilver, definitely a pack you should check out at your local game store or from Asmodee Direct, however you want to purchase it, but one that I would highly recommend. Thanks for tuning in. We will play a gauntlet with Quicksilver later this week, so come back to the channel and check that out, where I play Quicksilver, 1 game each with 4 different aspects against random villains and modular sets. Have a great day. Thanks, everyone.